And joining us now to break it all down is Congressman Adam Smith, the top Democrat, the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. Adam, thank you for joining us this morning. Before we talk about that, I saw you on CNN yesterday, just with your initial reaction to situation in Minneapolis. Maybe you can share with the audience just what you're feeling right now after seeing that video.
Yeah, no, it's a very scary time. And I think this is just the obvious and terrible outcome of the way Trump has approached law enforcement. I mean, frankly, we see it also in the way he has approached the use of our military with the boat strikes in the Caribbean, whereby there seems to be no accountability. And the message going out to all law enforcement and military personnel is, do what you got to do. There are no rules. There will be no accountability. Be as tough and as strong and as forceful as possible. Look, when you are in the military or in law enforcement, that's an incredible responsibility. To have you are empowered by the government to take someone's life if necessary. You should take that responsibility really seriously and work very carefully to make sure that you don't use it unless it's absolutely necessary. And the cavalier language coming from Kristi Noem and coming from Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, I mean, he did this ridiculous video of Yertle the turtle blowing up drug traffickers, making a joke out of it, creates a culture that doesn't have accountability and leads to this type of an excessive use of force. That is my opinion. This is an absolute tragedy in Minnesota. It does not strike me as a one-off. It strikes me as a pattern in terms of how the Trump administration seems to think they should enforce the law. It is a violation of the rights of the American people and incredibly dangerous for all of us.
Let's move on to Venezuela, Congressman, because I think a lot of us woke up on Saturday morning rather surprised by what had just transpired. Did you wake up surprised Saturday morning?
I wasn't that surprised. I mean, I didn't see it coming. They didn't tell me about it. But given what Trump has said and the way he has behaved elsewhere, he is given to bold, rash, short-term actions. So it didn't shock me given the rhetoric that had led up to it.
What is your thinking now that you've been briefed on it? You're one of the few members of the House or Senate who got a briefing on this. What is your takeaway now that you've heard the administration's rationale?
Yeah, well, it's created a very dangerous situation. And the thing is, you can't just look at that operation to remove Maduro in isolation. You have to look at what Trump has said. First, about Venezuela. In the immediate aftermath of this, he said, we are running Venezuela and they need to give us their oil. Okay, that was his message. At the same time, you have legitimate opposition leaders. You have, I'm forgetting the guy's name now, who won the election in 2024 that Maduro stole. And then you have Maria Machado, who was barred from running in that election. She is the real leader of the opposition, who just won the Nobel Peace Prize. And Trump pushed both of them aside. And now we have in power, basically the Maduro regime is still in power. His vice president has stepped up and taken over. And we appear to be focused on cutting a deal to get Venezuela's oil, which we're well on the way to doing. But look, the legitimate reasons to be concerned about Maduro is he has destroyed the country. And that has led to problems for the region all the way up to us. I mean, the economy has been completely collapsed. Chavez got that started by taking over everything, every business, and then just stealing the money for his cronies and running those businesses into the ground. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 million people have fled Venezuela in desperation. And that's created a migrant problem for us in the entire region. It has also empowered drug cartels and human traffickers by giving them a population that, well, number one, can't control them, and number two, is desperate for whatever work they can find. Major, major problem. But removing Maduro and putting his underlings in power just so they will give us their oil doesn't help Venezuela. And then the broader message where Trump talks about how, well, we should take Panama, we should take Colombia, we should take Cuba, we should take Greenland, we should annex Canada. That message of Western might makes right imperialism undermines the rule of law, not just in Latin America, but across the world. And also, it kind of empowers our adversaries. Because what brought Chavez and Castro, for that matter, to power was Western imperialism and the fact that we were actively involved down there and created economies that left masses of people in poverty. They were desperate for an alternative. So they turned to what turned out to be a horrible alternative, which was Castro and Chavez. Now here we are walking back in, restarting that cycle, instead of coming back in and saying, we have a plan to help Latin America build a better broad-based economy. There's a number of other problems with this, but I'll stop there. I think that's enough to work on for the moment.
Congressman, does this raise any concern for you? I think of Russia watching this right now and saying, well, okay, maybe we can just go grab Zelensky if that's something that the United States did. I'm not trying to compare the two necessarily, but does this give free rein?
Yeah, no, look, and there's this long history lesson, which I don't have time to get into. But prior to World War II, basically, this was sort of the way the world worked. Might made right. The cliche line from foreign policy experts was, the strong take what they can, the weak suffer what they must. There's no rule of law. There's no sovereignty. The more powerful countries take what they want and do what they want. And that led to a whole series of world wars, the last one of which very nearly exterminated the planet. So when it ended, we were like, maybe we should try something different. So we put in place sovereignty as a cornerstone principle, and also international institutions to resolve differences instead of force. And Stephen Miller summed up the Trump way of looking at the world best a couple of days ago, which is screw all of that. It's a jungle out there, people. We're back to Thomas Hobbes' nasty, brutish, and short life, where the powerful take what they want. We're going to try and do that. And yes, that absolutely sends a message to Putin and Xi and every other wannabe, dictator out there in the world who thinks they can build up an army and go take what they want. So yes, it absolutely has problems that go beyond just Trump's desire to dominate the Western Hemisphere.
Speaking of Greenland, there has been talk of, military intervention there. There's been talk of buying Greenland. What do you make of all this talk?
Yeah, well, a couple of big things about it. First of all, the dishonesty in being a Trump supporter these days is he says this stuff, and then Marco Rubio comes out and says, well, no, he's just talking about buying Greenland. People have been talking about buying Greenland, for over 150 years. And he's not wrong about that second part. Seward back in the day, after he bought Alaska, apparently had some interest in buying Greenland. A couple other presidents have as well. And that's all well and good. I mean, Greenland is absolutely strategically important for a whole bunch of different reasons, but that's not what Trump said. Trump is the first president we've had. Even in the 19th century, we didn't say that we were going to take it by force. Trump has said blatantly he is not ruling out using military force to take Greenland from, first of all, the Greenland people there who live there, but second of all, from Denmark, which actually controls it, that is a close NATO ally. So Trump threatening the use of force against a NATO ally undermines all of our security arrangements and in the partnerships and allies that we have built. Because that's the other problem with might makes right. You tend to wind up going it alone. Our great strength as a foreign power for the last 80 years, and even during World War II, for that matter, is the partnerships and alliances that we have built. Threatening one of those core partners, and a very reliable partner, by the way, with military force to take territory from them, undermines everything we're trying to do.